a minute and share everybody Filmio. So, as Alvina was saying, this platform is a place where fans, creators, investors collaborate to support projects. And there are right now about 105 projects live. There's about another 50 or 60 in stealth that are being created and prepared to be launched to see if they're accepted. And we review every project, and we're only trying to weed out hate speech and pornography, because as Alvina mentioned, and this is really important, this is a data machine. All the companies in the world at the top, and then as far down as they can, you know, from a monetary standpoint, use data to determine, to make programming decisions and based upon their audiences. So what we've done is we've built a data machine, and a project, when it gets approved and launched on the platform, part of what it's trying to do is grow a ghost score. A ghost score is our algorithmic representation of the data that is relevant to this project. And we get data from a number of places. We get data from the platform, from when people use the platform, from when they stake tokens, from when they follow and when they share your project and when they write ratings and reviews. We also bring in third-party data like Google Analytics, which helps you understand where people are coming from and how they're using the platform and things like that. And we also bring in all of the data from the open source movie database, which is basically an open source version of IMDb. And what's really important about that is it allows us to bring in all the personal, human, and project data for all of the successfully distributed projects in history, basically. So why that's relevant is, if you think about Filmio, Filmio is a commercial viability prediction machine that uses data to posit a score. And if you're Craig Schumacher and your partner is David Feiss, and David Feiss is the award-winning creator of the Adult Swim comedy Cow and Chicken, and he has a pedigree as a professional within the industry, how much is his participation in this project going to affect the project's potential for commercial viability? So it's, our goal is, remember I said our goal is to elevate creators' status in the conversation. And one of the ways we're doing that is with data, because if a creator has a rich data set and a engaged, rabid audience around their project, we believe that that gives them a leg in the distribution negotiation conversation. Because remember, creators really care about three things. They care about their idea, they care about getting the money they need for production, and they care about distribution. And while there are a bazillion things that fall into those three things, those top three things are really the things. And on Filmio, what we do is we take a project and we have a series of gating issues that the project has to go through to achieve different or unlock different features and different tools. And those are proof of originality, where the creator submits the project onto the platform. And if it's approved, we give it a QR code, which we call proof of originality, that they can use in a DCMA suit to prove that the day the project went live on the Filmio platform. They then move into proof of adoption, which is the formula is X number of unique people have to stake X number of tokens for you to unlock proof of adoption. This project, which is the #1 project on the platform, has had over 500,000 tokens staked by 1,249 unique stakers. So once the project has passed proof of adoption, we open up funding tools. This is one of the places where we've worked really, really hard to create an environment that enables all the different types of funding tools possible for creators. So an NFT studio where you can create and mint and sell NFTs, a decentralized finance token where you can launch crowd loans and use the IP for your project as collateral to raise money for production. through decentralized finance, a crowdfunding module where you could launch a Regulation CF, a Regulation A, or a Regulation D crowdfunding campaign and raise between $5 million and $500 million. We've also been demonstrating the platform to high net worth individuals, film funds, equity groups, and studios around the world, who are some of the more traditional ways films get funded. And then lastly, once a project has secured its funding, we open up what we call our distribution machine learning artificial intelligence tool, which is basically a tool that will bring creators' projects to acquirers, licensors, distributors who have predefined what it is they're seeking. And those conversations will be started on the platform, and they will, you know, be guided by smart contract and other things. And we still have a lot to do, but one of the last things I'm going to say is this. So for me, the analogy I like to use is Bitcoin, because, you know, if you'd asked somebody in 2007, if somebody could create an entirely new global economic marketplace based upon decentralization, most people laughed at you. And then there was 2008. And then in 2009, Bitcoin was created, but we all know that if you were on Bitcoin in 2009, you were using a Tor browser, you were on the dark web, and you were buying drugs or more nefarious shit than that. But what Bitcoin was for me wasn't about money, it was about governance, and it was a supposition. And the supposition was, could an economic marketplace that was decentralized exist in the planet alongside the centralized marketplace that's been in place since basically there were human beings? And the answer isn't in yet. Bitcoin is not mainstream, and Bitcoin has to become mainstream for me, for that to be answered once and for all. But for me, Filmio is the same thing. We built a machine. It's a badass machine. It doesn't do everything that we plan for it to do, but it does a lot of cool stuff, and it starts the engine the way we want it to. But it's a supposition, and the supposition is, can a collaboration of fans, creators, and investors come together using decentralization and a marketplace that leverages voting that is managed by an algorithm that ensures inclusion, equity, diversity, and equality by making sure that the people with the most money in the world don't have extra influence on what happens, which in my humble opinion is very much part of what's wrong with the world today, that influence that those people, the 12 people with the bazillions of dollars can you know, affect on the marketplace. Anyway.
Thank you, Ian. Anything to add to that, Alvina? But if you do have questions, by the way, feel free to, you know, raise your hand, unmute, and ask. Mark, it looks pretty easy to get your project up, right?
It can't be done.
Well, do you have a log line, a lookbook, and a poster?
Dude, it's my life.
Do you have a log line, a lookbook, and a poster?
Do you have real-time feed? Because that's my title.
All of these projects on my platform
Yes,
have a log line, a lookbook, and a poster. Cool.
Before the end of this call.
Right on.
Right.
I'm waiting.
Well, and I think, right, I think, Ian, and for the others too, because I think we'd love to hear, like, what can make things easier, right? They need to get the point with all the words you just said to have that stuff, to get their movie up or their project up. Then there's kind of the people that don't know what you're talking
Actually, Dave, that's really not what this is about right now. We decided to rebuild the tool that allows people to add projects from the ground up. And
Great.
The only way we can add a project on the platform right now is if we do it physically, manually. And And right now, with all the other development going on, it's just not a really high priority. So, you know, but the tool is almost complete, and then anybody will be able to add their own projects.
And what were the three things you needed? I need?
You need a log line, a lookbook, and a poster. And the challenging one in there is the lookbook, brother. But I can help you if you want.
Okay, dude.
And you should get Brad Parks to play you.
I prefer Seth Rogen, but that's well known already.
Parks is too old to play him.
Yeah, but there's that aging algorithm. You can just make anybody.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. And besides, we're not going to actually use the real Brad Parks. We're just going to use the AI Brad Parks because, you know.
The other thing is that whoever plays me has to be able to smoke a lot of dope, you know? It's like, that's part of the requirement. Did we lose everybody?
No, we're here. Anybody else? Dan, I know you might have had a question at the beginning. Is Dan
Well,
still? Oh, please.
No, please. I mean, it's more like I'm still, despite, you know, again, Ian, you had walked me through quite a few things. It still, you know, has this geeky side that I still have trouble getting, you know, understanding how to use it to my benefit, you know, and especially kind of interact with other people, except for writing reviews and supporting each other. I think, you know, there's this sense of, you know, being happy to be here and being part of this, you know, adventure, because it is like a Noah's Ark you created there that, if proven successful, could really throw this a lot of the ways films get made on its head.
So one
There's
of the
also-
things, Dan,
Yeah.
one of the
No.
things, let me show you one of the things. So we just recently launched this cool little help button in the bottom. And the really cool thing about this help button is it's the first instance of us putting ChatGPT 4 into the system. Right now, if you ask it anything, what is a fan token? What ChatGPT does is it scrapes our knowledge base and actually is doing exactly what we want it to do, which is, and we keep feeding it new information about the platform, and it's keeping getting smarter, and that's pretty cool. In addition to that, the other thing we've done is we've built some guided tours that you can use that'll actually show you how to use a page, because we, you know, trying to build a platform where you do this has been a really kind of a big job, and it's just a really challenging thing. So, you know, we have a lot to do, and we have to make it more intuitive, and we have to make it easier to use, and we also have to bring online all of these funding tools that you want and give you ways for you to find out how to use the thing without having to get a demo from me, because that doesn't, you know, really help anybody either. So, but with that said, my email is ian@filmio.com, and I'm willing to get on Zoom and Zoom with anybody anytime they want to help them use the platform better. So.
Well, I think by having these regular calls, Ian, you know, it could be good to have like have a monthly. People know they can save up all their questions. I'm sure when Dan asks his question, other people can be like, oh, I was dealing with that too, right? As you know, especially as the AI stuff kicks in. So that's great.
I'd gladly do a monthly call on WITI.
Yeah, we'll make this the monthly this time. But Dan, I think, had another question. Go for it, Dan.
No, it's just to piggyback on what's being said. You know, I mean, there's this app called Clubhouse, which is the most interactive app I've ever seen. Although they kind of remodel their general ways, it still, you know, works kind of the same. You just have to, again, relearn
That new interface, Dan.
You know
I'm
about
sorry.
this, right?
I
Okay.
can't even.
So this could be even simpler, because I could join from the car. I could join because there's less bandwidth, and you know, even like companies like Slated do it once a week. They have a meeting, and it's pure audio, And of course, there's nothing beats what you just showed me, Ian, which I think is great. Congratulations for doing something like that. Very intuitive, and you can, I'll only bother you for the serious questions then.
No, dude, Dan, send me an email and let's set up a Zoom call. Let me just give you a 411 on it. Because here's the thing, I have a great story. So we recently just finished a $10,000 development contest. And the #1 project on the platform, Chicken Ship, is a animated series that makes fun of Star Trek starring chickens. I mean, come on, man. For me, that's almost a laydown. How can a show like that fail, right? But here's the thing. Part of existing in a tool-based world is being an expert at using tools. And this project down here below it is called Absolute Zero. Now, this is a kids' TV show that teaches kids science. Okay? Well, I think that's great. It's not at the mainstream level that Chicken Ship is. It just isn't. You know what I mean? The audience is more specific. But this project came within 1 point of winning the development development funds because he used the tools on the platform better than anybody. And to be honest, part of that was he reached out to me and I gave him a 1-hour demo and he started using it. And I mean, I'm sure all of you can imagine that therein lies a problem, which is, for me to get people really going, I got to give them an hour demo. That's not a reoccurring, but Dan, we're going to do webinars and we're going to, do all kinds of things to increase and improve the onboarding. We're right now 16 people, and we're all so overburdened with the amount of work we have to do. It's crazy.
Can I toss a hypothetical past you, Ian?
What?
Can I toss a hypothetical past you?
Yeah.
So before COVID madness and all the other madness, I had 50 nations as partners, whether it was like Unifrance or China Film Institute, whatever I was working with. And we give a Hollywood Silver Screen Prize for each nation, and I put them in Variety and I bring them to Hollywood. Now that's a film competition. Part of my job is the Hollywood Film Festival is to curate filmmakers from various spectrums. And in that role, is it possible that if I have a winner, a short, so when I pick feature narratives from like Brazil or Kazakhstan, it's an emerging breakout feature. It's not their first feature. It might be their third feature. And you kind of know if you're in the film business, there's a time when a feature filmmaker kind of hits their pace, gets the right team. And is Filmio something I could say to those 50 countries, if you win the competition next year, we're going to give you a Filmio page and we're going to help you develop a short project to create funding and then use that as a competition platform for each of those filmmakers in each of those countries. Where part of it is filmmaking, part of it's fundraising. So being a professional filmmaker is different than just being an art filmmaker. You have to actually make revenue. And I think Filmio's platform, it seems to me like it's a really cool way to see if a filmmaker has it to cut their teeth and not just making a movie, but building a deck, building a business plan, creating a finance model. And that prize would be given away not just for cinematic excellence, but for economic viability. Who can create content that's profitable? That makes sense?
Here's the thing, Brad. So not only can we do the part that you asked about, but we can do the part before. So as an example, the Barcelona Film Festival is going to, for next year's film festival, have a short film contest. And what they're going to do is they're going to do a call for entries and they're going to invite all the filmmakers to produce short films in the contest. And then they're going to put all the short films on Filmio. And then we're going to use the global audience to pick the winners. And then we're going to fund those winners because all of the projects that are in that participate are going to have a project page on the platform. And the algorithm on the platform, this fan validation is what we call it, is the engine used to pick winners. And the thing for film festivals is it's a great way to build a global audience because now your calls for entry can be global. Your fans that are participating in your film festival's project on the platform are global. And that brings exposure to your film festival. And most film festivals now have both a physical entity and a virtual entity, right? So.
Okay, I see the matrix. I see what you're saying. I have a global community. I need to find a way to monetize that for the filmmakers that are successful within it.
Yep. And I think we can do that for you, Brad. Absolutely.
After I can stand up straight and, I can go back to work. So,
yep.
Small steps.
Brad has a brand new titanium back.
And it's awesome. Walmart, $19.99.
Matching iPhone. Anyone
And by the way,
else?
this session is brought to you by Brad Rochford. It's the secrets of screenwriting.
Oh, nice.
Which I'm reading while I'm laying in bed. Brad, there you go.
Fantastic.
Amazon.
Speaking of Brad, I would love to give you a 1-hour demo, dude.
Yeah, I've got a couple film projects too that are in our funnel. And I'm just trying to find a way to finance them as we execute this tour in the spring, this veterans tour. And as I'm just looking at what I'm looking at right now, I'm thinking that is exactly what I was going to have to go build. This is much cooler.
Yeah, and it could just be kind of a almost not white label, but just maybe a part where it could be like the Hollywood Film Festival films or the veterans.
Actually, interestingly enough, there is a horror DAO in Europe called Monster DAO, which is, the whole DAO is going to live on Filmio. And we're going to allow the creation of sub DAOs, and we're going to create sub DAOs ourselves. Here's the thing. So we built this machine, man. The machine exists. A couple things about the machine. It's an enterprise level piece of software. We literally hired some people away from Facebook a year and a half ago, and they built a microservices strategy so the platform never goes down. You can fix anything, you can upgrade anything individually, each little piece without taking down the platform, which is there aren't any blockchain companies nor very many businesses that have this level of software. So the fact that we built this really robust piece of software means that when we open the platform publicly, which is literally any second now, when we start putting a lot of people on the platform's going to be fine. You can put 5 million people on this platform in 30 minutes and nothing would happen. So that means that the robustness of the experience is real. I mean, here's something interesting. So you guys are about to see a bug. but we built a really robust dashboard, and we use the dashboard as a way to, do all these things. As an example, one of the tools we built on the platform was something called the superfan levels. Well, the superfan levels, so anyway, and even in a world which is still in stealth, we've had over 1 million tokens rewarded for supporting projects on the platform. I like to say that when I launched this profile, this is my business profile, and I launched this profile on April Fool's Day of 2023. And in my wallet on April Fool's Day were 2,500 tokens. And since April Fool's Day, by staking tokens to projects, showing support, helping their algorithm, and performing actions like writing reviews, I've earned over 10,000 tokens as a reward. And these tokens are very close to potentially having some real value. So
I think value is an important word. If I get it wrong, Thorin, is that your name? I can barely see my screen. He was mentioning Europe and the support that European filmmakers get, where the content is actually owned by the guy that makes the woman that makes the movie. Something, by the way, Spielberg and that crew fought for years until they were the producers, and then of course that's out the window. And so, I've told the story, I think, to Brad Rocher. Danny Macon called me from Toronto Film Festival like 10 years ago. He's like, I had a huge audience, 2,000 people, standing ovation. You're going to be so pissed at me. And I'm like, why? He goes, I didn't get one email. I didn't get one phone number. I'm like, oh, you dumbass. You're raising money for a film. And so filmmakers have their content and they have their community, and they usually own almost neither one of those, nor they own their commerce. And so to build an equity set, to build your future equity as a filmmaker of your community, of your commerce base, of the content that you can control across whatever, how many zillion different distribution markets there are, there's almost no leniency or even attitude in America to let American filmmakers own their own stuff. It's owned by somebody else. Whereas if you go to German film, they open the door for you. Hey, I saw this great film, oh God, what's it called? The Bastard and the Fig Tree, something a couple of years ago. One of the most beautifully cinematic shot films I've seen in years. And, you know, they had their whole nation and Europe help them make the freaking movie. In America, they would never get the damn thing filmed, and it was gorgeous. And that if we can, even in the American market, if we can leverage some of these things to empower filmmakers to own their own community and own their own commerce, it doesn't matter if they sell their content, at least then when they make their next movie. And when you say the things filmmakers want, Ian, I think the fourth thing they want is they want money to make their next film without borrowing it from their mom.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But here's the thing. the film industry in this country at some point realized that the only thing it wanted to be good at was controlling the money and maximizing the profit. That was number one. And they built hierarchy and structure and on top of structure to do those two things. And now what they found is the world is over it. And they're already too structured that way. It's why during the strikes, on some levels, they doubled down. Everybody was freaking about AI, and they were offering $900,000 for the director of AI at Universal. And, you know, I mean, it's just,
yeah, it's a Hollywood battle.
They lost their way because when Hollywood was born, it was just some wacky people that wanted to make shit, man. It wasn't fucking.
And they're from New York. But it's the own and control content and leverage celebrity versus the empower and inspire art and collective creativity. And so the studio model is own and control. That's how it works. And
absolutely,
what we're seeing now is in the old days when you had monarchs that ran studios, those monarchs had a vested interest in long-term economic growth. Now their interest is stock market at the end of the year. And so, of course, it's going to freaking fail. I think I told you, Ian, I was at Cannes with Gatos, and Elizabeth, and Henry Days, and all the studio guys were there at the Grand Hotel, and they're talking about this big Variety article in 2017 or 18. The 45 companies talk about the future of Hollywood. I'm like, that's bullshit, Jim. That article is about each of your studios' future. There's not one word in that whole magazine about the collective future of Hollywood filmmaking, because you guys are also busy worried about your stock market thing at the end of the year. You don't think about the next generation of, you know, grips that are going to become directors. There's no long-term thinking. And the only way to fix that, I think, is to give filmmakers the power to control their content and their commerce. I think, anyway.
Great.
Can I ask a question, Ian? What about I know we've been talking about films, movies, but TV shows that want to get, you know, Yvonne's here with us. He does more commercials and shorter content, but is it the same thing? Any type of
No, there's no
project?
There's no world for commercials on Filmio. We are definitely not that. What we are to begin with is we're a movies and TV. Now, movies and TV could be a short film. Doesn't have to be, you know, I always like to say projects on Filmio form the gambit. So you've got a short film that needs 50 grand to make, and you've got somebody who wants to do 6 seasons of Star Trek Discovery at 13 episodes a season and $15 million an episode. The thing about Hollywood is the range is all over the place, and what you have to do is create a situation. But what we decided when we thought about this, because let's face it, it makes complete sense that you could use the Filmio platform to make any creative product there is. You could do games, you could do music, you could do books. You can build an audience around and get them to fund you to write a book. I'm just saying, you could.
That's cool, by the way. I know
You
exactly
could-
who I'm calling next, Brad Rocher. We're calling Mr. Stinson. There we go.
You could self-fund the creation of any creative project. Remember back in the day, there used to be these things called patrons. And you
Yeah.
as an artist, you had one person who fed you and gave you painting materials and allowed you to live somewhere, and you just painted for them. Well, you know, I mean, there will be all kinds of models as distribution continues to fracture and become more interesting and get enabled by new tool after new tool. And, you know, I mean, AI is going to have influence on how we find what we want to watch. You know, at some point, man, you could maybe walk in your house and your TV turns that shit on and it goes right to the movie it was sure you wanted to see, and it's right. I'm just saying, you know, the what was the movie where the guy's walking in? Oh, it was Minority Report, where he's walking into the store and the thing gets his eyeball and he says, "Mr. Nakamoto, hey, that suit you bought last month, man, you know, it would go great with this top." I'm telling you, that shit's coming, man. It's going to be weird.
Well, the distributed part, Ian, so I won't get into details, but you know, I was trying to help Final fund a film project like 6 months ago. First one I've done in a couple of years. And after talking to Paul, I'm like, hey, look, this is cool and all. What do you really need? And it was like 350 a million. And I had to open up a series LLC and a bunch of shit. And I had a bunch of steps I had to do. But the person that introduced me to him got in the middlers, as always. And again, there was no system where I could actually execute that without some jackass in the middle trying to get a producer credit. And that, so I just walked. I literally had like Byron Marchant help fund freaking Viacom buying BET, and this is a Black directed, funded veterans film. We walked from the table because, like, I'm not going to pay some jackass a percent or give him a credit. This is a vet. I'm a vet. I'm doing it for veterans. So distribute help get rid of all that bullshit in the middle, because that kills projects all the time.
Well, here's the thing. So in a brave new world, if we're successful, yeah, absolutely. Like, one of my pet peeves and my pet dreams is I would really love to bring standardized contracting to filmmaking. The bullshit that goes on in Hollywood is just fucking stupid. Yes, I said an F word, David. Sorry, but I did.
It's stupid.
It's just stupid, man. Everything is custom. There's all these riders and everybody takes off a little piece of it. And it just doesn't make any sense, man. Except that it's intentional, because the more custom it is, the harder it is to control and the easier it is to control, right?
Yeah.
Because what is Hollywood? It's law firms. That's all Hollywood is these days, is a whole bunch of law firms making sure that the contracts benefit the studios and that they squeeze every single penny out of it. And they have been, I would insert F word here, creators for a long time, man.
Is there an element? So I work with Harris Tolchin, Wyatt, and those guys. We built a template contract system for our jury filmmakers. So at least on their end, they can reduce the unintentional stupid. Like, I can't guarantee they're going to make a good movie or they know what they're doing, but they've hit all the bogeys. We've had teams look at it. Their P&A looks good, and they're not going to get freaking sued, because you wouldn't believe the films I get. You know, I got one from Italy 2 years ago, gorgeous. And they were like blatantly using someone else's freaking music. I'm like, dude, I can't put that in my festival. You're gonna get sued. Or a filmmaker will get it and have distribution through Regal, and suddenly they sell it to Netflix. And I'm like, oh shit. Is there anything within filming that's like a checklist to reduce the stupid, so a filmmaker at least has a baseline of common sense items that they can let their crowdfunders know? I've at least done these things to make sure that we're not going to get a surprise. You know, just we get a distribution deal, suddenly we don't have rights to a logo, things like that.
Not yet, but it's definitely, there are definitely internal conversations. There are so many things that could be made more efficient, made more inclusive, made more equitable. And you just, you know, if you ask me, just kind of mention one of them, places where there are opportunities for inequity, right? And That's one of them. And all of that needs to be improved. But like I said, you know, you can only do so much at once.
Yeah. I bought the festival in 2014 with Carlos Diablo, which is either the smartest or stupidest thing I've ever done. But once Carlos is out of the way, I mean, I thought I can maybe I can get a better seat at the Hollywood table for a lot of my friends around the world that are independent filmmakers. And I got to Hollywood and realized, oh, this table sucks. So we want to build our own table. And then I spent, you know, with help like Catherine Winston, Jeff White, or Jeff Shumway, we built this whole nation by nation model of distribution, film, everything. And then I started making calls 3 weeks ago, and all that shit's changed. Not only has it changed, the distribution models have changed, the streaming models have changed. You know, at one point, Turkey was like #2 TV nation in the world. Now it's a freaking hot mess of like, I just can't even figure out what the hell's going on in Turkey right now. And so we have to start again. And I'd like to have a place to put all that shit. So, because I don't really care if I make money on the festival. We have other ways to make money globally from the festival. The Hollywood Festival is literally, I have the trademark. It's Hollywood Film Festival. Variety backs me, and it's supposed to help build a better future legacy for Hollywood as a filmmaking entity. And for like Thor, I consider Hollywood not a place. I consider it when a little girl in India picks up a camera and some little dude in Liberia picks up $1, and those two intersect somewhere on a screen. That's what Hollywood's about. That's the purpose of the festival. So,
Dude,
but
heal
yeah,
your
I like
back
to spend
and
that hour.
let's get together.
I got 3 weeks of laying here. From 2 to 6 Iowa time, I'm not stoned out of my head on painkillers and most relaxers. So that's my clear vision time.
I'll send you an email and we'll set up a time, dude.
Yep. Awesome.
Just to reiterate, you know, the fact that I, you know, moved to Europe as well. There's ways to also, I mean, not necessarily find, you know, fully funded, you know, via Filmio, for instance, because, for instance, Belgium, you know, kind of an advocate for them because I'm here as well.
Yeah.
They actually, the problem is first money in, but if I am able to convince my producers who are willing to come in at 30%, which is the magic number for the stage without annoying me with a name actor, then they can bring the subsidies part. It's called the tax shelter, and that could be also part of, you know, the co-funding aspect. Because if I guarantee a certain amount via Filmio, for instance, I can easily convince a Belgian producer to get on board as well, assuming of course I use Belgian crew or whatever or basically it's the money spent, and it's not even using a crew or anything like that. As long as you spend enough money.
There's interesting government subsidies for money for filmmaking all over the world, throughout the United States. There are definite opportunities for sure. And you know, in a perfect world, we'd have a way to integrate what is available into the situation. But right there, I have yet to ever find anywhere that knew, like a website that had all of the government subsidies for all of the governments in the world for filmmaking. It doesn't seem to be there, which means it's a information challenge, right?
It's there. It's just closed tough. Catherine Winston Baker, they've got, I think she's still doing it. They seem to have the best global grasp on they do all the big, Winston Baker does all the distribution, modeling, finance meetings at Cannes, Toronto, Berlin, Venice.
We are at the top